Hi, welcome to Movie Review Mom. I'm the mom, and the movie I'm reviewing today is called Stand. Please take a moment to subscribe. That really helps my little channel to grow, and I really appreciate your support. You can like the button and then even ring that little bell, and it'll notify you every time I upload a new movie review. And if you've never watched any of my movie reviews, this is the deal. I try to give you the scoop so you can save your money and your time. I hate wasting both of those things on terrible movies, right? So I try to give you a little heads up on the content so you can make the best decision as to whether or not you and your family want to watch this movie and if it's right for you. Now, enough of that. Let's talk about the movie. This movie will be in theaters December 1st. It's rated PG. It's 110 minutes long. And the movie review mom grade I'm giving it is an A. I really enjoyed it. But first, let me give you a quick overview, and then I'll point out some things I liked, things I didn't like, and some other stuff. So, first, in a nutshell, inspired by true events, this musical drama takes place in Canada in 1919 among immigrants, including Ukrainians who arrived there to avoid conscription by a foreign army that occupied their country. It's written by Rick Chafe and directed by Robert Atuyi. You learn about a workers' strike that lasted 6 weeks in Winnipeg, Canada. So the story itself inspired a stage musical called Strike, written by Danny Sher and Rick Chafe. They described it as an immigrant Romeo and Juliet battle for love and a better future during a time of social upheaval. So in 2002, Danny Sher had been searching for the subject matter of his third musical when a British friend of his pointed out the historical strike of 1919, also known as Bloody Saturday. Now, you might think that old history merging with a musical sounds odd. Remember Hamilton, the Broadway smash hit? I think because of that, people are much more amenable to watching a musical about history. So I think that you're going to enjoy this. But wait, there's more to the story. American movie star Jeff Goldblum happened to be sitting right next to Danny Sher on the second to the last show of the stage production's run, which actually ran several years. So good for them. But anyway, after the show, Jeff Goldblum turned to him and said, "Big show, big ideas. It would make a great movie." And here we are today with the film that actually premiered exactly 100 years from the events that inspired the musical. I love that kind of story. So, as to not spoil any of the details of the actual history, you get to see pictures of the real event at the end of the movie, along with some information about how it all ended. Now, some quick tips for parents. There's some anti Semitic language and other prejudice against minorities, including language and behavior. There's some profanity, there's some violence, including a little bit of blood. And so, because of that, and mostly because of the history, the singing, and the love story, most young kids will be pretty bored. But if they're interested in history, then I think that they might enjoy the different perspective on this story. Some themes that are definitely worth talking about that are illustrated in the movie are, first of all, that the world changes one heart at a time. And I really like that idea. The topic of immigrants obviously is a part of the story, and hard work and putting in a day's honest effort for pay. Emma, who's played by Lisa Bell, says, "The more we do nothing, the more nothing changes." And she even sings that in a song, which is great. Lisa Bell was actually first spotted when she competed in American Idol. So that's awesome. And she really is the standout singer of the movie, in my opinion. Other topics are race relations, the difference one person can make, standing up for your rights, and discrimination of minorities. Now, some things that I really liked about the movie are, first of all, that I love that the story was turned into a musical. The songs are lovely and inspiring, and it just held my interest because I wanted to see when they were going to break out into song and what the songs were going to be like. The film really does look like a Hollywood blockbuster in terms of quality and talent. So good job. The period pieces look believable, although a lot of the clothing looks more like costumes that needed to be more distressed to sell the look. Sets and the backgrounds I thought looked really great. I loved the energetic, funny, and insightful song called The Ma'am is Mum, sung by Emma, Lisa Bell, at about the half-hour mark. Up until then, the songs are pretty slow with a similar melody. And then this was the first unique song where I thought, okay, now we're getting something a little bit more lively. And then it goes back and forth between more lively and more melodramatic. Her breakout song called Stand was featured in the musical, but because it was so popular, it inspired the name change from the stage musical, which was called Strike, to Stand in this movie. She and the song are both very powerful. There are some beautiful and very creative camera angles by two-time Emmy Award winner Roy Wagner. So good job. I think that's one of the big reasons why it looked so much like a Hollywood blockbuster. For the most part, everyone's foreign accent was pretty believable, although they slipped into their American accents every now and then. But Greg Henry's Ukrainian accent, I thought, was the standout in terms of accents. He seems to be a favorite of director Brian De Palma, appearing in many of his work. And Greg is actually married to Lisa James, who's a noted director for the American theater. Speaking of American, I think American viewers will be intrigued to learn a little bit about Canadian history. And while it happened 100 years ago in that country, the subject matter absolutely is relatable in today's social environment all around the world. Now, there were some things that I didn't like, but there aren't very many. First of all, sometimes it's hard to understand what people say just simply because of their foreign accents. Some of the actors sounded like they were trying really hard to speak with foreign accents, and that always pulls me out of a movie. I want to believe it and feel like these are real people. Some of the songs and their singers are definitely better than others. A certain actress always looks fresh and clean with bright red lipstick, even when she's thrown in jail or working. And so that again made me think, okay, I'm watching a movie and she wants to look really pretty in the movie, even though this character should be dirty and miserable and have tattered clothing and certainly no makeup. And really, that was all I could find wrong with the movie. I really enjoyed it. Now, let me share some lines with you, as well as a little bit more information about the speakers and the singers. So the first line is spoken by Rebecca Almazoff, who was played by Laura Slade Wiggins from the popular Showtime dramedy Shameless. Her character says, hearts can change, and the change starts with mine. And I really enjoyed the fact that her perspective was very reflective. She didn't point out at the mean, bad world and say, the world needs to change. She kept asking herself, am I the one that needs to change? How do I change my heart? And that kind of thing. So I appreciated that perspective. She's actually married to stuntman Kyle Weishar from the John Wick movies. So that's kind of awesome. Haley Sales plays the character Helen Armstrong. And Haley holds both Canadian and American citizenship. She's known for her work in Deadpool #2 and has released 3 albums so far. Her line, or her character's line, says, when a democracy becomes a tyranny, we can't just let that go. We have to answer. And then Marshall Williams, who's a model and a singer who was a contestant on Canadian Idol, plays the character Stefan Sokolowski. And he says, if we do nothing, nothing changes. So clearly there's this element of change and standing for what you believe in. Now, before we go, I wanted to give you a recommendation, not for another musical, but for another historical movie that I thought was really great. It's called Suffragette. It's about the women in England who fought for the women's right to vote in the early 1900s. So check that one out, especially if you're a woman, to really appreciate all of the lives that were lost in the name of getting that right for women in England and around the world, really. Be sure and click down below on the link. And if you rent or purchase that film, that helps to support my little channel. Thank you again for spending a few minutes with me. I will catch you in the next one. And until then, bye for now.